welcome to another day of exploring yourself with the help of the Bhagavad Gita, part of a year-long endeavor and adventure. And as the time of the sunrise gets closer to the time when I start this live program, there are more and more deer. And in fact, there were 4 deer out here this morning just a short time ago, but they said they had something else to do. They didn't stick around for today. They said they'd catch this by video, and I'll put a picture of them in the thumbnail for this video so you can enjoy their presence. We're talking about the year-long topic of Samatvam, which can be defined as equanimity. Another way that is more applicable perhaps to our lives is to say it's the ability to figure out who we are and to have the courage to be that person no matter what. And today's practice is dedicated to Liz, who I've known Liz for years and years and years. And one thing that strikes me about her is she is always the same. She chooses to be this pleasant, supportive, I don't want to say gentle because that may connote weakness, but she's very pleasant and yet very strong. And I admire that in her. And it inspires me to look within how do I want to be in the world? Because as Bhagavad Gita says, and as we've probably noticed, we contain a whole host of qualities, some of which may seem opposing. And which do we choose to present to the world? So in this part of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun, the warrior prince, is actually realizing he doesn't know as much about his best friend and cousin, Krishna, as he thinks he knew. And so he's asking Krishna to describe himself. Now, we can look at this one of 2 ways. We can look at it a little more literally, like we might think when we're in a relationship with somebody, we know them. Yet we don't. And then sometimes they get to show us their true colors. And as the saying goes, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Or it could be looking at ourselves and realizing, I don't know myself. I don't know what I'm meant to do in the world. It's said if you really know yourself, you know what you're meant to do in this world. And if you don't know that, there's some more exploration you could do. And the hard part is, like just as Arjun's finding out with Krishna, Krishna is not all goodness and light. Krishna says, I also encompass the darkness, which Carl Jung has said about each and every one of us. We have our light side and we have our shadow side, and most of us want to embrace the one and deny the other, and that causes problems. Krishna is different because he's like, I'm great and I'm not so great. And we're going to look at verse 1036 today, chapter 10, verse 36. And as usual, if you have an Embracing the Song of Your Soul book, any one of these, then you'll have the verse I am chanting. And I'll talk a little bit about the second translation, which is only in the 3rd book, Embracing the Song of the Soul, in a minute. Oh, you can listen. Yes, you can chant along, Blue Jay. Welcome. Good point. Okay, in verse 1036, Krishna is saying to Arjun, I am the Khan of Khan artists, and the splendor of the splendid. I am victory and resolve. The goodness of the good am I. If you're interested in the Sanskrit, one of the more literal translations we could do for the first line is, I am the gambling of cheaters, which refers actually to a specific line in the Mahabharata that happened years ago. And the second line is, I am the Tejas of the Tejasveen. Oh, hi Tejasveen. I know the Tejasveen, who is definitely full of Tejas. And the last line is, I am the Sattva of the Sattvic. All right. So Krishna is starting right off with describing himself in more depth to Arjun. And in this verse, he leads with the not so pleasant. He says, yeah, I'm the Khan of con artists. And it's important for us to be able to accept, like Krishna does, these aspects others might think of as deficient or defective, because if we don't accept them and try to repress them, they are going to come out. They're going to sneak out. They're going to show themselves when you're under a lot of stress, when you're a lot of pressure. But if you acknowledge them, then you can work with them and maybe even transform them. By the end of the verse, we started with the con of the con artist and we end with the goodness of the good am I. And one could say, actually, this is one of the ways you can look at the spiritual path. The first line is about the darkness within Krishna, and then the fire, the splendor of the splendid, victory and resolve that enables him to reach the goal of being balanced, being comfortable with the light. You can't be comfortable with the light within if you're not comfortable with the dark within. And that's one of the lessons today. Are you brave enough to see the supreme? Because Krishna is a symbol of the supreme, the divine, the truth, whatever you want to call it. Are you brave enough to see the supreme and the divine, not only in things that are beautiful like the sun and deer and breakfast, but also in the not so great, like blue jays, cuckoos, those birds that bully and steal the eggs from other birds? The divine's in that too, those little thieving. Or can you see the divine if you're watching the baseball playoffs in your team, as well as the team that you don't want to win? That's one of the big challenges. So as we do our practice today, notice not only what feels good in it, but maybe what's more challenging. Can you embrace it all? Cold and wet. Can I embrace the cold and wet as well as when it was warm and sunny? Switch sides. Alrighty, coming back to our 5 minutes of contemplation. I do invite you to contemplate where you overlook the presence of whatever you call the supreme, the divine, truth, the light. Where do you choose not to see it? It could be in a person, a place you label as not sacred, an act. Where do you choose not to see the supreme? 5 minutes. Welcome back. If you heard a big racket, that was the chipmunks in the area recognizing the dark shadow of neighborhood cat Dexter, who was hunting amongst them. And by recognizing Dexter, that dark Dexter, they were able to deal with him, perhaps avoid him. Oh, I recognize the light in the chipmunks, in Dexter, in me, in you, in all. Tough to do, but we'll keep working with this. Tomorrow, hopefully. Look forward to seeing you when I see you.